Tonight is the night. The Wednesday Night Wars have arrived. Welcome, folks, to episode 305 of #AskGSM. Here today for Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Kind of cool that it's episode 305, considering I was actually just in attendance for a Flo Rida concert. Yeah, Flo Rida. Of WWE fame. He's done theme songs for WrestleMania 28, WrestleMania 32, WrestleMania 33, Survivor Series 2011, SummerSlam 2014, SummerSlam 2016. Yeah, the guy's all over the place. I went to my brother's parents' weekend, over the weekend, and he was the performing artist that night, along with 303. Not 305, but 303. And I say 305 because Flo Rida is from Miami, which is 305. He says 305 a lot in his songs. But anyway, that's beyond the point. That's beyond the focus here today. On to more important matters, the Wednesday Night Wars are happening tonight on AEW and TNT and with NXT on USA. I'm sure the only question you guys tuned in to hear about, and my answer to that question, what show am I watching tonight? What will I be watching? I'm sure you guys don't care, but what will I be watching first? AEW and TNT. I want it to be one of those things where I want to be able to say, hey, I watched the first ever episode, assuming it's a success, and I think it will be. I'm optimistic. I want to be able to say, hey, I watched the first ever episode of AEW on Dynamite, or AEW Dynamite on TNT. I wasn't around for the first ever episode of Raw. I wasn't even born yet in 1993. I wasn't around for the first episode of Nitro. I think I was like 2 or 3 months old by that point. But I can say I was around for the first ever episode of AEW Dynamite, and that I watched it live on TNT. I'm not going to be changing the channels or trying to watch both. If it was just me, then maybe, but I'm watching with Alexis tonight, maybe her brother as well, we'll see. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, I'm waiting to watch NXT. I don't want to tune in and see like, oh, like Candice is the new NXT Women's Champion, that's great. Like, I don't want it to be spoiled for me, so what I'm going to do, I'll probably tweet out any live thoughts that I have on Dynamite during the show on Twitter, but I'm not checking my notifications. I'm definitely not checking my timeline. I'm not going to get myself spoiled, so I'd rather just wait to watch NXT until after Dynamite. I'm going to record it, and then that way I can skip over the commercials. I know it's not on the network anymore. It's not as easily accessible, whatever. But if you skip over the entrances, skip over the video packages and the commercials, that's like an hour, 15-minute show right there. That's not too bad. And I'll be up until 11:15 tonight, which isn't that much different than a Monday when I'm watching Raw, So should be a great time. Very excited for both shows tonight. And I said this on Twitter this morning. This might be the biggest day for wrestling on TV since, I would say, I know you can go back to, the Monday Night Wars, the original Monday Night Wars with, WCW and Monday Night Raw, WWE, back in, the late 90s. But more recently, I'm thinking of Impact on Spike and then Raw on USA. On that first Raw, that first Monday night of 2010, when TNA moved to Mondays for the first time ever, they went live head-to-head with Monday Night Raw. And it was honestly a very good show. Jeff Hardy arrived, Ric Flair was there, they had the World Championship defended, Hulk Hogan debuted. They had a lot of crazy shit go down, and I remember watching that show. The crazy thing is, I think I was changing the channel back and forth between the two shows that night. I think I was, and this was, during the internet times, but at that point, I had not yet figured out how to watch two shows at the same time. I only had one TV. I didn't know what live streams were online, shit like that. I certainly wasn't on social media for the most part when it came to wrestling out, tweeting out my wrestling thoughts and stuff like that. So I'm very excited. I'm super pumped for tonight. And I remember watching the Jeff Hardy debut on TNA that night, or his return rather. And I'm like, holy shit, like he's in TNA. He was just in WWE a couple months ago. Like, this is crazy. And then I think I watched the first hour of Raw after that. I don't remember. I'm not sure what I watched live there, now that I recall. Now that I think about it, I'm not 100% sure, but that's what tonight reminds me of. It reminds me when Raw and TNA went head-to-head. Now, granted, it was a very short-lived war. Like, that died out very quickly because TNA got fucking squashed by Raw every week after that, and they had to go crawling back to Thursdays, and they have not been the same since. But despite that, though, I don't think that'll happen with AEW and Dynamite. I don't think that'll happen with NXT. I don't think the ratings will be huge for either show from the get-go, just because there's a lot of the same viewers trying to watch both on TV. But nonetheless, it's going to be interesting. I am watching AEW Dynamite live tonight. and I'll be there next week. I tweeted it out yesterday. RJ scored Alexis and I and himself tickets. So all three of us will be at AEW Dynamite, their first, or rather second ever show in Boston next Wednesday. Going to be a fun time. Super stoked for it. So I'll be watching those 2 weeks live. And after that, I really don't know. If NXT can maintain the current exciting product that they have, I'm partial to NXT. So I'll probably watch NXT first. But if AEW can keep up the exciting stuff that they have coming up in the weeks ahead, then maybe I'll watch that over NXT. I'm not 100% sure yet. But either way, though, it's a very, very exciting time to be a professional wrestling fan. On that note, guys, this is episode 305 of #AskGSM. As I said earlier, if you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday night, the post that I usually put up on the wall on Tuesday nights. If not, on the wall itself, if you want to leave a question there. You can also drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. And after doing some thinking, I'll probably keep #AskGSM on Wednesdays. It's just easier for right now. I like it on Wednesdays. There's no wrestling on Tuesdays. And at some point, not anytime soon, I'll likely be doing a tri-weekly podcast. And that sounds a lot, but it sounds like a lot, but what I'll probably be doing, instead of doing one giant show on Thursdays, which is my current schedule with Wrestle Rant Radio, so that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. Usually I record the show on Wednesdays right after I record #, get it up nice and early on Thursday mornings. I don't want to do that anymore just because, I do want to be able to review NXT and AEW Dynamite. So I'll be recording it tomorrow morning. It should be up soon after. But in the future, down the road, what I'm thinking is doing 3 smaller shows throughout the week. One on Tuesdays reviewing Raw, and then the occasional pay-per-views. One on Thursdays reviewing NXT and Dynamite. And then one on Saturdays reviewing SmackDown. So that's probably what my schedule will be going forward. I mean, not anytime soon, like I said. Down the road at some point, though, I am contemplating doing a tri-weekly podcast where the podcast will also be available in addition to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Google Play, all those other platforms, nextairwrestling.net. It'll also be up here on YouTube, so just to make it easier for people to check it out. And again, it won't be an hour-long show like # is. I think # will remain an hour. But I might do like a 25-minute podcast, 25 minutes to 30 minutes on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. It also makes it easier for me to record. Wednesdays won't be as busy as they have been, because in the past number of weeks, months, whatever, I've been doing #, recording Wrestle Rant Radio, getting both videos ready, podcast ready, whatever, watching NXT UK, watching NXT. It's just been a really packed day. Thankfully, I'll be recording Wrestle Rant Radio on Thursdays. NXT UK has also moved to Thursdays, so Wednesdays won't be as busy moving forward. What I'm hoping to do, today was the exception just because I was busy this morning. I'm hoping to get the show up earlier going forward so you have plenty of time to check it out before NXT and AEW. So hopefully that's the case today here as well. But nonetheless, let's stop with the yappering and let's get ahead with the questions here. First, starting off with the Land of the Y from YouTube. Their first question was, so I caught the quote-unquote season premiere of Raw, and I gotta say, Brock Lesnar murdering Dominic perfectly set the tone for the show. What I have to ask, however, is why didn't the rest of the show pick up on that tone and run with it? That's a great question. I thought the show kicked off on a great note with that attack from Lesnar on Dominic. I thought it was an amazing opening to the show. That was really well done. Lesnar came across great. Dominic sold the fucking hell of that beating. That might have been one of the most uncomfortable and brutal Brock Lesnar beatings I have seen in some time. He's beat up on Seth Rollins. Remember the whole thing about a couple months ago? It was right after or right before. I think it was around SummerSlam time. It was only about 2 months ago, I think. He beat the living shit out of Seth Rollins backstage, but no one gave a shit. Nobody cared because at that point, Seth Rollins wasn't really that sympathetic of a character. So no one gave a shit. When he used to do it to Roman Reigns, again, who the fuck cares? But because it's Dominic, the kid's, he's not a teenager, Jerry Lawler. He's 22 years old. I don't know in what world 22-year-olds are still teenagers, but he's not a teenager. Anyway, it was uncomfortable because it was a younger kid, not young, but he was 22 years old, a lot younger than Brock. He's not a pro wrestler, at least not officially trained in a WWE superstar or whatever. And it's Rey Mysterio's kid. How can you not feel bad for him? I thought it was an awesome angle, and I'm like, holy shit, this is great. But at the same time, I feel bad for Dominic to the point where I want to boo the shit out of Brock Lesnar. So I thought it was an amazing angle. I completely agree. They should have run with that. They didn't. They had a decent, albeit forgettable match between Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss. The Flair Hogan stuff, I've heard mixed reviews on. I didn't really mind it. I thought it set the stage nicely for the pointless Crown Jewel show coming up on Halloween, unfortunately. Fucking ruining my favorite holiday of the year, but whatever. So I thought that was okay. The ending sucked. I mean, I'll talk more about that later with the whole cucking thing with Rusev and Bobby Lashley and a lot of that whole awful, atrocious storyline. The Office is not atrocious. I don't know why I said I was trying to go for awful though. I said I was trying to go for awful there. I said Office by accident. But anyway, yeah, they really should have run with that. I'm not really sure why they could not capitalize off the momentum. I didn't hate the show. I thought it was a good show. I saw a lot of people say, "Oh, it sucked after the first segment." Honestly, I enjoyed it for what it was. It wasn't a great show by any means, not nearly as good as other weeks that we've seen in recent weeks. Maybe because it was so heavily touted that people had high hopes and it fell flat for that reason. And I understand if that's the case. But from a presentation standpoint, at least for right now, I thought it was a breath of fresh air with the pyro, the new stage, the commentary team, the new Raw theme song. I'm a huge fan of Skillet. I have been since WWE first used their Monster song for Hell in a Cell 2009, and then Hero by Skillet as well. Hero for Royal Rumble 2010. So I've been a fan of theirs now for almost literally 10 years. I just saw them in concert for the first time 2 weeks ago, and I said while we were there, I told Alexis, because we went together, and I told her, listen, that song, Legendary, I guarantee you, will be a pay-per-view theme within 6 months. Sure enough, it is the new theme song for Monday Night Raw less than a week later. That's impeccable timing. The song's great. I love that. I love the new intro. So, yeah, I like the show, but I agree it really peaked with that opening segment, and it never truly recovered after that. It was a solid show. It wasn't bad by any means, at least in my opinion. But it never really reached those same heights after the opening segment. Elena's second question. Aside from Jerry Lawler being the equivalent of an old dad trying out his best jokes to disinterested kids, I honestly have nothing to say about the new commentary team. After hearing Corey Graves bickering with Michael Cole and Renee Young for so long, though, I actually prefer feeling nothing towards an announced team. What did you make of the Dio, Vic, King trio? Yeah, King has got to go. Alexis was more, not sympathetic, but she was, she said, oh, he's okay. I like Jerry. You know what? I like Jerry too. But his commentary in 2019 sucks. It sucked 5 years ago. It sucked 10 years ago. I'm not saying the guy's a bad commentator, but he lost his touch a long time ago. Ever since he became, or got older rather, probably since his 60s, and he's 69 right now, but ever since he entered his 60s, his commentary has been unbearable. Even as a heel, it was pretty annoying back in the day during the late 90s and early 2000s, but at least it was entertaining. And I'm not saying he needs, PG-14 to say puppies to be entertaining again. No. It's not the fact, it's not the rating that's holding him back. He's just old and out of touch. He's just not exciting. He's not entertaining. He's just fucking annoying with all of his outdated jokes. And it's very clear the guy doesn't watch the product either. He doesn't know what Heavy Machinery is. He has no fucking clue who half the roster is. You got to watch the show. So they got to get King out of there. I love Vic Joseph. I love, Dio Madden. I don't love him, but, he's only been on I can't say, oh, yeah, he's amazing if he's only been on for 2 weeks. But nevertheless, I think he's done a good job from what I've heard of him so far on 205 Live and now Raw. He didn't really say much on Monday, but I think he'll grow into the role over time. I am a big Vic Joseph fan, though. But I think it's better, honestly, that you have that opinion that you're saying, oh, I have nothing to say about the commentary team. Yeah, it should be that way. How often do you say, oh, the commentary is great? You know what? Not often, to be honest with you. The commentary team, even if they are amazing, should not be the focal point of the show. Their main goal should be to further stories, tell you, what's going on, help you understand what's going on, introduce you to new things, promote shit, stuff like that. And they have a lot of stuff to promote, so I got to give them credit. Even when, Michael Cole was on the Raw announce team and Renee Young, we gave them a lot of shit, but they have a lot of stuff to memorize and remember and go over and stuff like that, things to say, things to not say. So I feel for those guys. I feel for those women. I feel for all of them. At the same time, though, they took away from the regular scheduled broadcast every single week. At least Graves did, and Cole and Renee. I think this trio is a lot better. I love the commentary of Nigel McGuinness and Vic Joseph on NXT UK. I love Nigel and Morrow. Not so much Beth. She's kind of pointless on NXT. I think they're all great together. But, as good as their commentary is, I'm not saying, oh, this commentary is amazing. Like, okay, it's good commentary. And in a rare circumstance, like a Jim Ross 20 years ago, he might add to the moment. He might, make that moment memorable by saying the Austin era has begun, stuff like that. It's not often you have that type of stuff happen. It's nice to have a commentator that can add to the moment, but as long as they're not taking away from the moment, I think that's really all that matters, especially coming off the dark days of Michael Cole and JBL. Their commentary, as bad as people say Renee Young was and Jonathan Coachman and all these other guys, they're not nearly as bad, at least in my opinion, from when Cole and JBL and Lawler were doing commentary for a few years there, from like 2013 to 2016. God, they were terrible. They were so fucking bad. They were awful. They were atrocious. Nothing will ever, I think, beat those terrible days of Raw commentary. That was a dark, dark period for Monday Night Raw. Or even heel Cole back in the day 10 years ago when he was feuding with Jerry Lawler. That was even worse. So let's just be appreciative that it's not as bad as it once was. But I think it is better that we now have Dio, Vic, and King. King is a fucking waste. They got to get rid of him at some point. I think he has the gig as long as he wants it, according to King himself in an interview that he did before Raw this past week. But Dio and Vic are the future of that commentary team. I think they'll grow into the role. Vic Joseph doesn't really scream the type to me that to be obnoxious like Michael Cole was. I like them, so hopefully they'll be around for the foreseeable future. And I did like what they did on Monday. Not like love it. I didn't think they did amazing or anything, but hey, it's a step up from what they had before with Cole, Renee, and Graves. Their third question, what's with the cuckolding storylines? Yeah, that's my fucking question too. What's with all the cucking going around right now in WWE? We have Mike and Maria. We have now Rusev and Lana. Paul Heyman, I feel like there is a certain story there going on that we don't quite understand. I don't know if Paul Heyman's been cucked before. I don't know what the fuck is going on with his fascination with the cucking storylines. I'm sure it's a Paul Heyman thing. I know we can all blame Vince. But honestly, though, if we're going to, praise Paul for the better Raws recently, we also got to blame him for shit like this, because this screams like something that he would do. This screams something that he would script on a show. We saw this shit in ECW. We saw this shit years ago. You know what? Honestly, for as great as SmackDown was, and RJ's going to hate me for this comment because I know he loves this shit. As great as SmackDown was in 2002 with the great matches, you know what? Honestly, Raw reminds me a lot right now of SmackDown during that period. Not nearly as hot, but in the sense that you'll get a lot of, good feuds and good matches, stuff like that, compelling TV for a change. But there's also a little bit of dumb-ass Maury Povich show-like nonsense with this Mike and Maria bullshit and now Rusev and Lana. Because Paul Heyman was doing that back in SmackDown in 2002 as well. I don't think a lot of people forgot. I think a lot of people remember, but choose to not, acknowledge it. Oh, SmackDown was so great in 02. Yeah, it fucking was. But we also had Dawn Marie and Tori Wilson fighting over her father. Fucking dumbass storyline. The matches were terrible. Absolutely atrocious. That was all Paul Heyman's fault. So if you want to praise him for SmackDown being so great, Raw being a lot better recently, you also got to blame him for shit like this. And honestly, if you like this stuff, to each their own. I'm not calling you a fool, whatever. It's not for me. It's not for a lot of people. If the reaction that I saw on social media this week to the ending of Raw was any indication, this shit is not for most people, especially not a kid's show. For a PG show, they're doing a fucking cucking storyline. What the fuck? What the fuck? I feel embarrassed. I am 24 years old. I feel fucking embarrassed to watch shit like that in front of anyone who isn't a fan. I feel embarrassed to watch this shit in front of people who are fans, let alone people who don't watch the product and I want to turn them on to wrestling. And they're going to look at me and I'm going to feel embarrassed. They're going to be like, why do you watch this shit? What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Some sort of like porn scene or something? What is this, Pornhub? Like, what the fuck? With the whole Bobby Lashley, Lana storyline, and Rusev just standing there like a dumbass with his hands in his pockets, not doing shit. Not doing shit, just watching his wife make out with this other guy. Like nothing ever happened. Maybe even enjoying it. Who the fuck knows? Whatever he's into is not our business. I just thought it was so stupid. So I think it's entirely a Paul Heyman call. Because Vince has done some dumb storylines in recent years. A lot of dumb shit that we can all blame on Vince. The pooping nonsense, the throwing up nonsense. That's all Vince because he loves that type of shit. The cucking, though, we have not seen a cucking storyline on WWE TV in quite a while, if not ever. I'm sure we have before, but none that come to mind in recent memory. Anything that has had Paul Heyman attached to it, though, has had cucking in there in some form or fashion. So, fuck off with this nonsense. It's bullshit. It's terrible. Take it off my TV, please. It's an entertaining program. It's an entertainment show. It's fucking terrible, though. I'm not saying, it's not, have the focus be in the wrestling, whatever. You can do stuff like this if it's entertaining. This isn't entertaining. It's just bullshit. Anyway, Brian C. from Facebook, his first question was, how invested is TNT into AEW? They've been burnt out by WCW, and I imagine they are going to be a bit fun-shy. I'm not sure what you mean by that last part there, a bit fun-shy. I think TNT is all in on AEW. I know you said they're burnt out by WCW, which is true, but that was 20 years ago. It was a different time. And if they were still burnt out by WCW and they still have that sour taste of WCW in their mouths from 2 decades ago, they would not have picked up AEW. They would not have chosen to promote it as heavily as they have been over the last number of months. I've seen a lot of advertising for AEW on TNT, on billboards, radio stations. I know people who don't even watch wrestling come up to me and talk to me and say, hey, I saw this wrestling show. What is this? Blah, blah, blah. It has buzz. It has real, genuine buzz right now among people who don't even watch wrestling because they're doing such a great job promoting it. So I think TNT, as long as AEW is game, I think is going to be all in on AEW. I don't think it's going to be one of those cases like with WCW back in the day where, the head honcho said, hey, we don't want wrestling on our network, which, I think wrestling has come such a long way in the last 2 decades. It's hot right now to a certain extent. I'm not saying ratings are through the roof like they were in the late 90s, but SmackDown's on Fox. NXT just moved to USA, which could not get a cable deal to save its fucking life years ago. Remember all those talks? Even when it went to the network. The reason why it went to the network was because it could not get a cable deal. NXT was unable. It was booted off of TV after 6 months. That's how bad that show was. ECW was always on the air from 2006 to 2010, and then Sci-Fi picked it up. It wasn't even good enough for Sci-Fi. That's how bad NXT was by late 2010. They booted Superstars off TV because it became a forgettable program by 2010, 2011. What was it on? Ion Television Main Event got booted by Ion Television in 2014. So again, wrestling has not been prime time now for a while, at least outside of the main WWE programs. SmackDown went live on Tuesdays for USA. That's great. They moved up in the world from Sci-Fi from where they were before. But they're moving to Fox now. That's a big move. Raw's right where it is still. But NXT's making moves. Even Impact is making moves. Not major moves, but AXS is a big step up from where they've been in recent years. And now AEW and TNT as well. So as long as AEW can hold up their end of the bargain, deliver a compelling product, make sure ratings don't go through the toilet, stuff like that, I think TNT will remain with them through the end. Thomas B., his first question was, or he's got only really one question actually. His question was, does a Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar potential feud appeal to you? That is if WWE is interested in pursuing him. Now let's get this straight first of all. I know I fucked this up here on the show before. I think it was when I answered FD's question a number of weeks ago about MMA stars and stuff like that, and I fucking mispronounced Cain's name, I believe. Cain Velasquez. It's not Cain Velasquez. It's Cain Velasquez, I think. We'll just call him Cain. That's got to be Cain. And I tweeted that out this morning. Whenever he does debut in WWE, and I guarantee you it's coming. I guarantee you a Cain WWE debut is coming. Absolutely. They have to have someone on commentary who can properly express excitement like Amaro Ranallo and have him scream, that's gotta be Cain, that's gotta be Cain, that's gotta be Cain. Like, I gotta hear that. That would just be tremendous. But anyway, it's only inevitable. And honestly, I would want to see that. I remember watching that Cain Lesnar fight back in 2010. I know Brock beat someone that summer. I think he came back to the Octagon. Or maybe it was the year before. No. I knew who Lesnar was by the summer of 2009. I didn't watch that fight with Frank Mir. I was away at that point, and my uncle, who's a big UFC guy, watched the Lesnar-Frank Mir fight. And I think Lesnar won that one. He got sick, I think, and then he came back, and he won his fight that summer. I forgot against who. Maybe in a rematch with Frank Mir. I don't remember. Maybe he lost to Frank. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I do remember going over to my uncle's house that September. I think it was September, to watch the Cain fight with Brock, and then Brock lost. So Brock could be looking for that win back. And I don't think Brock, I think he fought one more time after that. He got sick or hurt again, and he came back at the end of 2011, and he lost, I think, to not Cain, but someone else. I forgot his name. I would know if I heard it, but he came back and he lost again, and that was it for Brock in the UFC until 2015 when he fought again, and he won, but he cheated, so it was a no contest. You know the whole story. But honestly, yeah, I heard a lot of rumors this week about Cain being in serious talks with WWE, and I heard about how Paul Heyman's backstage promo on Raw this week when he was taking shots at wannabe fighters in the UFC and in MMA and pro wrestling, stuff like that. Yeah, it sounds like it would have been designed to incorporate Cain into the storylines at some point. And some people have gone even so far as to speculate, and I think this might have been Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, newsletter, whatever. He said that he went after Rey Mysterio because Cain is Hispanic, so he's going to be like the Mexican hero for WWE, coming to Rey Mysterio's aid. Honestly, that's not too far-fetched, because if this doesn't lead to a Brock Lesnar-Rey Mysterio match, you would be left wondering, why did Brock do that? Yeah, to put more heat on him before, the show on Friday. I guess that makes sense. But at the same time, though, why would you do that if you're not setting up a Brock and Rey match? Which they very well could. They could have Rey cost him the championship on Friday. They could set up a match for the Crown Jewel show later this month. They could do it at maybe even Hell in the Cell this Sunday. I doubt it, but it's a possibility. Nevertheless, honestly, yeah, I would love to see a Cain-Brock feud in WWE. There's not many people left that feel like legit threats to Brock Lesnar. I know Seth Rollins beat him twice, but, who else can really beat Brock even once? Braun does not feel like a threat to Brock Lesnar. Samoa Joe's been beaten down so many times, that'd be a joke at this point. Unfortunately, it is now to see Samoa Joe and Brock go head-to-head again, just because we've seen it before. We've seen Brock beat him in 5 minutes. He's not a threat. Matt Riddle would be the only one that would be really exciting to me, that's left anyway, just because we haven't seen it before. They both have UFC backgrounds, and even then, Matt Riddle's not a big guy. He's very skilled, but even the thought of him beating Brock is a little far-fetched, at least right now. But beyond that, they don't really have many threats left to Brock Lesnar. Walter would be cool, but that's I don't think that's going to happen. Just because Walter doesn't want to move to the U.S., and why would you want to put Walter in there just to lose to Brock? And then if Walter wins, if he's not moving to the main roster, then why would you do that? You know what I mean? So I feel like it's a lose-lose. But anyway, I think Cain would be a great threat to Brock. They have history. They could build off of that. And it would be one of those rare fights that they could, they could have transpire in both the UFC octagon and a WWE ring. I think that almost happened once before, I want to say, with Brock. Not Frank Mir. It might have been Cain. Honestly, it might. I don't remember who. I know there was maybe it was when Brock, it was after the Cain fight, and he was rumored to be at WrestleMania 27, and people were thinking, maybe Cain Velasquez will come out and cost Brock the match or whatever. That never ended up happening, obviously. Brock did not come back until 2012. But it was in the works at one point for Brock to come in and do an appearance for WWE at WrestleMania 27, and that would have been pretty fucking cool if they could do that. But anyway, after their brief face-off of that UFC show many, many years ago, Taker and Brock. But anyway, yeah, Cain and Brock feud, to answer your question. Honestly, I would be all in on it. Cain, I've heard, is making strides as an in-ring performer. He's one of those people that can take to it quickly, a lot like Ronda Rousey did when she first showed up in WWE about a year and a half ago. Cool to see that Cain is having similar success in the ring. So hopefully at some point, I think it is only inevitable that we will see Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez. Don't know how to pronounce it. We will see him eventually in the WWE. I can guarantee it. At Iwagu91, their first question was, what is your anticipation for the premiere of AEW Dynamite and SmackDown on Fox? My anticipation level is very high. I'm very excited for both shows. I wrote all about both episodes in today's article for Bleacher Report, previewing both AEW and Dynamite tonight and SmackDown on Fox this Friday night. So be sure to check that out in what's on tap for both shows. AEW pretty much has their entire card set in stone for tonight, which is pretty cool. SmackDown, not nearly as much. They have the Brock Kofi match, which is really the big selling point of that show. The Rock is coming back. That's all I have to hear to watch the show, to be excited for it. That's amazing. Stone Cold Steve Austin will be there. Goldberg will be there. Hulk Hogan will be there. We're going to have the 4 Horsewomen tag team match. Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon in the ladder match, which is, I'm not really too invested in that all that much, just because the feud has been fucking underwhelming as shit the last couple weeks. It's really just been dragging on and on and on. But I'm glad it might be finally being blown off on Friday. But I'm very excited for both shows. Raw was not nearly as good as I thought it would be on Monday. I still thought it was a solid show, as I said earlier, but it wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. Hopefully, Dynamite, NXT, and SmackDown can pick up the slack, and even Hell in a Cell on Sunday. But I'm very excited for both shows tonight and on Friday night. But I will be watching AEW over NXT first, though, as I said earlier. His second question, do you see The Fiend winning the Universal Championship and Sasha Banks winning the Raw Women's Championship this Sunday at Hell in a Cell? I do. I think I don't want to jinx it because I feel like it's weird to predict 2 championships changing hands inside the cell on the same night. It's very rare that happens. I guess it's happened before. Did it happen last year? What happened at Hell in the Cell last year? No, it didn't, because Roman and Braun had their match. That didn't change hands inside the cell. We had Orton and Hardy, which was really good. 2017, I know it didn't. We only had 1 title match inside the cell that year, and then Owens and Shane, of course. 2016, I know it didn't. I was there for 3 title matches inside the cell, and only 1 changed hands, that being Charlotte and Sasha. And then we had 2015, Brock and Taker. So it's been at least 5 or 6 years since we've had, no, not 2014, not 2015, 2013 maybe? 2013, we had 2 cell matches, but only the WWE Championship, I think, changed hands when Orton won it from Bryan. When it was like a Bayan or some shit. 2012, so it's been a long time now that I think about it. Maybe 2011 was the last time. No, 2011 not either. I know Henry defended the title that night successfully. 2012, no, because CM Punk successfully retained that night. 2010, maybe? 2010, Kane and Taker, no, Kane did not lose the championship. Neither did Orton inside the cell. 2009, I think both championships changed hands. I know Taker won it from Punk, and then Orton won it from Cena. So it's been about 10 years since we've had 2 championships change hands inside Hell in the Cell on the same night. So I don't want to jinx it. I feel like there's a bigger chance I don't know. I really don't. I don't think Sasha Banks loses. I think to build her up for this long, I could go on my whole thing about, rewarding her for her time off. At this point, it's not even worth fighting about. But it just really does make sense for her to lose, or rather for Sasha Banks to win the championship, rather for Becky Lynch to lose, and for the Raw Women's Championship to change hands. It makes even more sense for The Fiend to become the new Universal Champion. And we've been talking about this for weeks now, where it would be an incredibly dumb decision for WWE to book Rollins to beat The Fiend, to beat Bray. The guy has so much momentum right now. And honestly, I don't give a fuck what happens. I don't care if it's Undertaker who interferes. I don't care if Rollins rolls him up. I don't care if someone costs The Fiend the championship. I don't care if it ends in a no contest. It is stupid to have anything else happen but The Fiend winning the championship. If you didn't want The Fiend to win the title, you shouldn't have put the match inside Hell in the Cell. You shouldn't have. It's just fucking dumb. It's dumb. It's not like one of those things like with Punk and Ryback a number of years ago where you didn't want to take the championship off of Punk, but you also didn't want to have Ryback get beat for the first time. This is one of those things where it only makes sense to have The Fiend win. Rollins losing does not matter. The guy's not going to be damaged. He hasn't held the championship for a year. He only won it back in August. It's not that big of a deal. So The Fiend should win. It absolutely has to happen. And I think Sasha wins too. I guess they could have Sasha lose and then move to SmackDown and win the championship over there. But Bayley has that championship right now, so that really wouldn't make much sense considering they're both heels technically at the moment. So, yeah, Sasha has to win. The Fiend has to win. That's my prediction. I know it's kind of jinxing it, but multiple championships have changed hands inside Hell in a Cell before. That might have been the only time that's ever happened in 2009. Was in 2009. But I'm willing to bet it'll happen again this Sunday at the pay-per-view just because they're the only 2 outcomes that make sense. His next question, is AJ Lee the best to come out of NXT Season 3? Yes, but an argument can be made for Naomi. So also in that season was Jamie. She lasted a cup of coffee. I think she was a ring announcer for them. I think her name was Jamie Keys, I want to say. She was around for like a minute, and then she got released. I think actually after she got eliminated from the show, which was funny. Oksana, who was terrible, she got cut years ago. Caitlyn, who became a Divas champion, but she left the company over 5 years ago. So it's really only down to between AJ Lee and Naomi. Was there someone else on that show I'm not thinking of? Let's look it up real quick. NXT Season 3. Let's see here. I know there's probably one more woman I'm not thinking of. It had that great theme song, You Make the Rain Fall. Remember that? Oh, let's see. NXT. Come on. What was NXT Season 3? Show me contestants. Let's see. Pro Wrestling Wiki. We had Caitlyn, Naomi, AJ, Oksana, Maxine, who was Katrina. She went on to become Katrina in Lucha Underground. And she was great over there, but not nearly as successful as AJ or as successful as Naomi. So Naomi has lasted longer. Yeah, Naomi's been in WWE now for about 10 years, which is pretty crazy. But, she started out as a Funkadactyl. She was still dancing for Brodus Clay and shaking her ass while AJ Lee was the Divas champion. But she did go on to become a 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion. She did go on to win the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. And she has been pretty successful for herself in the last number of years. So I think AJ Lee, though, has had the bigger impact, although she didn't last as long as Naomi. She left the company 4 years ago in 2015, right after WrestleMania 31. AJ Lee, before Nikki Bella, was the longest reigning Divas champion. She held that championship. She broke the record. She didn't have many great matches, but her feud with Caitlyn was like a real turning point for that Divas division. That was the first real Divas feud I had gotten excited about in like forever. They had really good matches together. Some of the best matches I think that championship ever had was with AJ and Caitlyn when that Divas championship was around. Obviously, AJ left before the whole women's revolution in 2016, and honestly, she was never the greatest in-ring wrestler anyway. She was never that great, but for the time, she was pretty good when she matched up against Caitlyn and other people. She had pretty good matches with the Bellas in late 2013. She was also the Raw GM for a while. She didn't win NXT Season 3. It was Caitlyn. But she had the whole thing with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. That was a big part of Raw in 2012. She was the focal point of that show for the better part of that year. She won the championship in 2013. 2014, she won the championship another 2 times. She was a 3-time Divas champion. She had the matches with Paige. So, yeah, I would say AJ Lee is the biggest star to come out of that season. Although Naomi's still around, she's been successful. She's also very good in the ring. Former 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion. I just don't think she's had the bigger impact than AJ has in WWE, even though she has lasted longer. At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, which show do you think John Morrison will be on when he returns? Raw, SmackDown, or NXT? So I did talk all about this in a quick audio exclusive video for nextdaywrestling.net and YouTube this past week, on Friday of last week to be exact, so check that out if you haven't already. In short, though, I did talk about what show Morrison would be best on. It's either NXT or SmackDown. I could see him showing up as early as tonight on NXT on USA if they really wanted to. I don't think he will. I'm not sure. Honestly, I really don't know what they're going to do. Because Morrison, he might still want to act. I don't know if he's going to continue pursuing that. I don't know. Even though he's reportedly back with WWE. The main roster would make sense because he's already established. It's like, Luke Gallows coming back and going straight to Raw or SmackDown and not, going through NXT again. Just because, why would he? But then again, Drew McIntyre did. Drew McIntyre, RJ first, he was the first one that suggested to me, hey, maybe Morrison can go to NXT. And when I first read that he said that, I was like, wow, that's a great idea, because a lot like McIntyre, if McIntyre first went to the main roster when he came back, he would have been lost in the shuffle quicker than fucking Mike Kanellis was 24/7 champion. That's how, he would have flopped, I think, pretty quickly in the main roster if he was brought back there. But he went to NXT first. He had a great run there. And he was great outside of WWE before he came back in Impact and other promotions like What Culture's promotion, stuff like that. But I don't think Vince would have cared. I think he would have ended up back in the mid-card like Shelton Benjamin did when he came back a few years ago. It really would not have been that much different. But because he was able to show that he was a top talent in NXT as a babyface and win the championship, have great matches with Bobby Roode and then Andrade and a few other people, Vince was like, wow, he can really be something, and they made him, a semi-top guy on Raw for the year, his first year on the main roster. Now, he got hurt, and he hasn't been really as great in recent months because of the alliance with Shane, but still, he's a pretty, he's still a top prospect. I think he can still be recovered, but that's beside the point. What I'm trying to get out here is, with John Morrison, I think he would benefit from going to NXT first, because I feel like if they bring him back on SmackDown, which is very likely this Friday, he is billed from Los Angeles. They'll be in the Staples Center on Friday in LA. It's the big SmackDown debut on Fox. It makes a lot of sense for him to debut on that show. But what do you do with him, though? I guess he could go after one of the mid-card titles. He could chase Nakamura, which would be kind of interesting, to be honest with you, for the IC Championship. He could target AJ for the United States Championship. That would be really good as well if AJ moves over to SmackDown. They could always put Morrison on Raw, but he was always better on SmackDown, For that year that he was on SmackDown, he was more successful there than he ever was on Raw for the year or two that he was there before he left in late 2011. He was way, way better on SmackDown. He almost became world champion over there before, Punk got big and Hardy was hot, so the opportunity never really presented itself. But he was IC champion for a few months. He had some pretty notable feuds on SmackDown for a while there, so anyway. With John Morrison, I would love to see him in NXT, but SmackDown seems more likely. I think in NXT, you could have some great matches with Johnny Wrestling. Johnny Wrestling versus Johnny Wrestling would be great. Him and Adam Cole could be very interesting. Him and Tommaso Ciampa, even Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne, Velveteen Dream would be very exciting given their similar gimmicks to a certain extent. There's a lot you could do with John Morrison in NXT, so... And he's an established name. He's a name that a lot of people know. And NXT has enough star power as it is, but it wouldn't hurt to have someone of his stature on NXT. Build him back up before he goes to the main roster. But then again, he's also 39. Drew McIntyre was still pretty young when he came back to WWE, so he can afford a year in NXT. Morrison, I don't know. The guy's nearing 40. He's going to be 40 in, I think this week, actually. Maybe even today or tomorrow before SmackDown on Friday. I saw his birthday recently. I'm like, oh shit, it's coming up, but... It might be too, he's at that point now, with AJ Styles, he's old enough now where, he's too old to go to NXT. I think he might be just better off going to the main roster. So I feel like it's way more likely he shows up on SmackDown than NXT, but NXT should be considered an option as well, because the possibilities are endless for shit that he could do over there. And maybe given their current touring schedule and the fact they aren't touring a lot as much as WWE, the main roster does, obviously, maybe he could still do the acting stuff on the side, who knows. His second question, thoughts on speculation that Liv Morgan will be a part of the Firefly Funhouse when she returns. I have not heard that. It doesn't make any sense, and I don't want to see it. They were teasing that whole Liv Morgan, I'm going to be real when I get back. That was 3 months ago. What the fuck was the point of that if they never had any plan for it? It's not like she got taken off TV and they've been airing vignettes for her like the Firefly Funhouse in her absence, kind of telling you who Liv Morgan is, when she's coming back, who she is, stuff like that. We have seen nothing of Liv Morgan on SmackDown. They put her on the show just to shut her the fuck up because she was tweeting for months about, SmackDown is Liv, which is so fucking annoying. I'm not a Liv Morgan fan. She's not bad, but I would love to see her used. I just don't think she's as good as people make her out to be. I have yet to see one memorable Liv Morgan match, but whatever. She'd been tweeting for months. Put me on SmackDown. I'm in catering, blah, blah, blah. They shut her the fuck up by putting her on SmackDown that one night, having the match with Charlotte. She lost, and now I don't think she really has tweeted much about it since. Because she got on the show, she got what she wanted, but she's back off the show after one night being on the show. So, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know where they're going with it, if they're even going anywhere with that. But keep her as far away from Bray Wyatt as possible. Bray Wyatt initially, when people suggested, maybe Eric Young and Nikki Cross will be, Abby the Witch and Eric Young can be the Buzzard or whatever. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. But at this point, Bray Wyatt does not need a faction anymore. He doesn't need Harper and Rowan. He doesn't need anybody. He's over on his own. He definitely does not need. He definitely does not need Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan does not need to be Sister Abigail or anything, any shit like that. It doesn't make any sense anyway. So yeah, maybe for her sake, she'd be way better off with Bray than she would be now doing nothing. But for Bray's sake, it's stupid. It's dumb. So hopefully that does not happen. I don't want to see it happen, nor do I think it will happen. Jeremy's next question. What other matches do you think will be added to Hell in a Cell? Honestly, I don't know. That's a great question. We only have 3 matches advertised as of right now for the show, which is fucking pitiful. But we have the 2 cell matches, and then Bryan and Roman versus Harper and Rowan. That's it. That's it. And the sad thing is that with SmackDown on Friday, I doubt they're going to be spending most of the show hyping up the Hell in a Cell card. The pay-per-view is 4 hours, people. It's not 2 hours, even 3 hours. It's a 4-hour fucking show with an hour-long pre-show. What the fuck are you going to put on an hour-long pre-show on a 4-hour show with only 3 matches, even if they are Hell in a Cell? They're all going to be fucking Iron Man Hell in a Cell matches if these 3 matches remain on the card and nothing else is added. I'm sure more matches will be added, but what do you add that's not random? Without Cesaro and Ricochet coming out to do a rematch from Raw, that's not necessary, you know? I really don't know. Like, Bayley and Charlotte have been feuding, and maybe they set that in stone on Friday. Maybe Charlotte beats Bayley again, and that gives her another shot at the championship on Sunday. I guess that would make sense. I would say Banks and Bayley versus Bliss and Cross, but Banks is already wrestling, so that doesn't really make much sense. I would say AJ and Cedric, but they already did that on Raw, and AJ won decisively, so why would you do a rematch? Nakamura and Ali, but they blew that off on SmackDown last week. So I really don't know. I honestly don't. They don't have many other feuds going on at the moment. I guess they could do Bobby and Rusev, but like, who fucking cares? Keep that shit as far off my TV as possible. I really don't. I really don't know what else they could do. All the championships, like they had 10 championship matches at Clash of Champions, so they kind of got it out of their system. The WWE title, maybe Brock wins it, defends it on Sunday. I doubt it, but I guess that could happen. They could do Revival versus New Day in a rematch for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. I feel like that's kind of likely. But they didn't follow up on that at all on SmackDown last week, so I don't know what's going on with that. I really don't know. I honestly don't. So I guess we'll see. We'll see come Sunday how they fill out the card. But it is embarrassing. I know they have a lot of stuff to hype up, but it is embarrassing that we are days away from the pay-per-view and only 3 matches are confirmed for the show. Like, either move the pay-per-view or, I don't know, figure something out. Figure something the fuck out, because to have 3 matches on a show that you expect people to pay tickets to go watch or pay on the network to watch or whatever the case may be, and there's only 3 matches is sad. I know The Fiend versus Seth Rollins is the biggest drawing point of that pay-per-view, and I agree. I'm looking forward to Banks and Lynch, too. That should be a great match as well. But you need more matches. You need to fill out the 4 hours somehow, and 3 matches will absolutely not cut it. At Reborn Again from Twitter, John Ritlin, check out his YouTube channel, as I always say, Real Honesty with John Ritlin, great content. His first question was, so the Lana, Rusev, and Lashley stuff on Raw, do they just hate Rusev, his question is? Like, they're not even trying to hide it now. I would not be surprised. I think Rusev is very interested in just leaving, if I had to take a guess. I know there have been rumors for years now. There have been rumors for a while that Rusev and Lana wanted to quit as far back as like 2017. But they were denied, and WWE did not want to release them from their contracts. I think that was also rumored again in 2018. I want to say coming out of WrestleMania 34 maybe, I want to say. And then he got pushed for a little bit, like later on in 2018 with the whole Rusev Day shit. And then earlier this year, they have done nothing with him. They have done nothing with Rusev in 2019. They bring him back to little fanfare in this dumb Maria storyline, and now he's getting cucked by Bobby Lashley and Lana. What the fuck are they doing with this guy? And it's not the first time they've dropped the ball on him. I'm writing up a whole article right now, an entire article, about the many times they have dropped the ball on Rusev since he debuted 5 years ago. But at this point, they are just ruining this guy. Just ruining him. I don't know if it's like their intent or if Paul Heyman's, fascination with cucking storylines for whatever reason is just, it's coming at the expense of Rusev. I'm not exactly sure what the intent is here, but that's got to be part of it because they know Rusev wants to leave. Maybe he tried to leave a few months ago and asked for his release and knew it wasn't going to work after what they did to the Revival and Sasha and all these other people. I'm not sure. But anyway, with Rusev, I think he's just waiting out the rest of his contract. Once that puppy expires, he's out of here. Lana too, probably. They are married. I guess they could, I guess one of them would stay put, but if he's unhappy, I'm sure she's unhappy too. She's been complaining for whole different reasons for years now about on Total Divas. Oh, I don't get opportunities. Like, I want to be in the title picture. I want to prove that I'm good. Like, she sucks. Lana just isn't good. As a manager, she's great. As a mouthpiece, she's fine. As an in-ring competitor, she's fucking terrible. So the whole thing about her complaining, oh, I'm not happy because I want a title push, blah, blah, blah. You got your push in 2017. It lasted a cup of coffee, and we haven't looked back since because she's fucking bad. She sucks. So with shit like this, I guess it works because she's not in the ring, but the storyline is so trash that it doesn't even matter. I hope they quit when their contracts expire and they just go elsewhere. His second question, do you think that Impact will get way bigger ratings on AXS TV? Or do you think they're permanently stuck in the spot they've been in since leaving Spike TV? That's a good question. I mean, it's impossible for their viewership to not improve from where it is right now. I mean, for people, I can't wait for the reports about like, oh, Impact's ratings at a 300% increase from where they were previously. Yeah, no shit, because no one has Pursuit. People watch it on Twitch. 3,000 people? That's sad. 3,000 people are watching Impact every single week live. That's pathetic. Where are the millions of Impact? Where the fuck did those million people go? Like, I know you could say the same thing about Raw, but like, that's literally the entire fan base of Impact. I don't know how the fuck they're still alive right now. I know Anthem is pumping money into Impact, and they have been for a while now, and they're keeping this thing afloat. But like, if they have no ratings, they're on Twitch with zero viewership virtually, then I don't know how this company's still alive. And the shows have been a lot better, don't get me wrong, but they just have no buzz. More buzz than maybe Ring of Honor does, which is saying something. Maybe not, because Ring of Honor's buzz has been in the toilet now for so long, maybe it's not saying something after all. But anyway, with Impact, they have virtually no viewers, so obviously it would be impossible for them to remain where they are or even go lower where they are. That takes a real effort. That's, again, practically impossible. So the viewership will clearly improve on Tuesdays on AXS. Not a lot of people get access. The viewership will improve, but will they be able to get, reclaim or get back to the heights they were at years ago? Absolutely not. It's been so long now where they have lost so many viewers from where they were years ago, from Spike when they were getting over 1 million viewers, sometimes even 2 million viewers. They were doing pretty well for themselves on Spike. The ratings declined. Then they went to Destination America. The ratings were still shit. They were way worse than they were on Spike, but they were still pulling in hundreds of thousands of people. Pop TV, kind of the same thing. A little lower than they were on Destination America. Pursuit, though, they were pulling in maybe 10,000 people. Maybe. And then it went below 5K, and now we don't even know, because they don't even report on the numbers because they're so low. That's pathetic. So anyway, with Impact, I think those viewers are gone, and they're just not coming back. I think they will pick up new viewers, obviously, upon their move to Impact, or rather, upon their move to AXS TV, but I think it's impossible. For as good as the product is right now, I think the damage has been done, and they're never, ever going to be able to get back to where they were. I would love to be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be wrong. I just don't think they'll ever get back to where they were a few years ago, pulling in 1 million viewers or even a couple 100,000, because the damage has been done. And people have not been able to watch Impact, as easily as they were years ago because of the declining networks. They went from one bad network to another, and it's just been atrocious since then. So maybe they can land back on a channel like Spike TV at some point. Honestly, again, I would love to see it. I really would. I really only want what's best for wrestling. I want what's best for the fans. I want what's best for Impact, especially. But at the end of the day, realistically speaking, I just don't see them getting back to that point. I really don't. His next question, not wrestling related, but are you excited for Joker this weekend? It's apparently gotten a lot of buzz from people who saw it at the film festivals. Yeah, I'm very excited. I said a while ago, after It Chapter 2 is released, and I like that a lot too, the only two movies I was really looking forward to in the remainder of 2019 were Joker and Star Wars Episode 9, which comes out in December. I know the franchise took a hit after the last couple movies, but I'm still excited for it nonetheless. Maybe not as excited as I was, for the last previous installments, but Episode 9 should be something special. fingers crossed. But as far as Joker is concerned, it looks great. I've seen some people annoyed, like, oh, people keep talking about the Joker, how great it is, and it hasn't even come out yet. Shut the fuck up. Like, dude, the only people that are saying that it's great are the people that have seen it, because they had screenings for this movie a fucking month ago. So of course people are going to be all crazy about how great it is, because those are the people that have seen it. I'm not sitting here and saying, oh, the movie was amazing. I haven't seen it, so I can't say, obviously. But the people who have seen it are well within their right to say, hey, the movie's great. I don't think it's overhyped. I don't think it's one of those cases where, oh, people won't shut the fuck up about it. Absolutely not. I think the movie is definitely deserving of all the critical acclaim it's gotten. At least from what I believe, from what I have seen, it looks like the movie's great. Now, if I go watch it and it sucks, I'll be back on here next week and I'll say, hey, you people were right. It was overhyped. It wasn't nearly as good as people made it out to be. I heard it got like an 8-minute standing ovation. That's kind of ridiculous, but hey, maybe the movie's amazing. I guess we'll soon find out. I'm excited to find out, though. It looks great. I will be watching it. I think on Saturday, Alexis and I may be going up to Salem, Mass. to see it with my old roommate from college. So it should be great. I'm looking forward to it, and I have been looking forward to it for a while now. After I saw the first trailer months ago, I'm not usually pumped for DC movies. Like I thought Shazam was really good, honestly, but Joker should be even better. So yeah, I'm very excited for it. And if you ask me again next week what my thoughts on it were, I'll probably talk about it either here on the show or on Wrestle Rant Radio or wherever. His next question: 3 matches announced for Hell in a Cell with 5 days left till the pay-per-view. And he obviously sent that in last night. Till the pay-per-view happens. What in the world is WWE doing? Yeah, that's my question too. I already got done ranting about this, but yeah, it's a fucking joke that they only had 3 matches for a 4-hour show. Even if you made both matches 60 minutes, you would still not fill up the entire, like all 3 matches 60 minutes long, you would still not fill up the full 4 hours. And that's not even including the kickoff. Yeah, I know they're heavily focused right now on all the other shit going on at the moment between the draft and SmackDown and NXT and the season premiere and all this other shit. They had more matches lined up for the season premiere than they do Hell in a Cell. That's sad. But, and Raw is shorter too. But then just move the pay-per-view. Like, I know they already announced this months ago. Like, obviously this has been set in stone for months. But in that case, you know, they already knew SmackDown was moving to Fox this Friday night. They've known about this for over a year and a half. They could have very easily moved this pay-per-view to next week instead. So it's not 3 weeks after the last show, and then another 3 weeks before Super Showdown, Saudi Arabia, Crown Jewel, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Whatever. They're doing another one of those on Halloween. Whoop-de-fucking-do. They probably wanted to space it out with that in mind. Whatever. Still, though, it's sad they have completely neglected the Hell in a Cell card. At noob_n_co1991, his question was, if Asuka does turn heel, he asked a lot of Asuka questions, who will be the first superstar she feuds with outside of Kairi Sane? Kairi Sane and Asuka, I don't think she's going to turn heel. But if she does turn heel, her and Kairi Sane makes sense. That's really the feud that we all want to see. Not the tag team, which has been shit. But Asuka and Kairi against each other, I think it'd be great. So that, Asuka and Becky, absolutely. Asuka can say, hey, bitch, I tapped you out in January. Where's my fucking title shot? I've been sitting on the sidelines doing nothing now for months, the entire year. Give me a fucking shot at the title. I tapped you out, bitch. So, yeah, Asuka and Becky makes sense. Charlotte's a heel, so. I guess the other 4 horsewomen are heels, so I don't think they can really afford to turn Asuka heel right now. Who else do they have with baby faces anyway? I'm trying to think. What other baby faces did they even have? Ember Moon? Actually, Asuka and Ember Moon would be cool, because Ember Moon never actually ended up beating Asuka in NXT. So they could play off of that history as well. But, Becky, Kairi, and Ember Moon would be my top 3 choices for Asuka to feud with as a heel. His next, or I'll just get this out of the way too. He said, are there any other matches for Hell in a Cell this Sunday? Everyone's asking about this, but currently no. As of this recording, no. And I'm sure more matches will be added. I just have no clue what they'll be, except outside of the obvious ones I discussed earlier. Their other question, will we see the return of the Mae Young Classic next year and the Evolution pay-per-view? I hope so. I'm surprised. First of all, I'm not surprised they didn't bring back Evolution. I'm disappointed, But it was so obviously, such an obvious make-good from the company, their attempt to make it up to fans for the fact that the women cannot go to Saudi Arabia. So they had them have their own pay-per-view. That's really all that was, because it wasn't even supposed to be an all-women's pay-per-view up until like fucking July. It was supposed to be TLC with Clash of Champions in December, but they switched it because they realized, oh shit, we're going back to Saudi Arabia. The women aren't on the show. Let's give them their own pay-per-view. So that's why they did that. That's the only reason why they did that. Because otherwise, why isn't it on the pay-per-view calendar this year? If it was such a big deal, why aren't there more Evolution pay-per-views? Why aren't there more all-women specials on the network? That's the only reason why they did it. Despite the fact that it was such a big success, attendance-wise, the tickets weren't selling well going in, but I have, without hesitation, I can tell you, it was the best pay-per-view of 2018. The best WWE main roster show all year was Evolution. Absolutely. Without a fucking doubt. Yet they have yet to bring it back. Maybe it's because Ronda Rousey's not around and they only really wanted to sell a show around her main eventing and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. But, I think the other women they deserve to have an all-women's pay-per-view years ahead of that. But I know they had Ronda and they had the Bella Twins and now Nikki's retired, so who gives a fuck? You could still do an all-women's pay-per-view. You absolutely could. Right now, maybe not. There's a lot of women that are out hurt and stuff like that. Ronda's not going to be back anytime soon. Nia Jax can stay out as far as I'm concerned. But, she's out hurt right now. Ruby Riott is out injured. Sasha Banks is back. I guess they had the 4 horsewomen. That should be enough to sell a pay-per-view on. I guess according to them, maybe not. But I don't think we will see the return of Evolution next year. If it didn't come back this year, I don't think it will be back next year. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't think it will come back. Mae Young Classic, I'm shocked they didn't bring that back this year. I don't know why they didn't do it. They did one in the summer of Full Sail of 2017. They did one in the summer of 2018, but not this year. So I don't really know why. I know they have NXT UK, and they have a lot of other shit going on right now, but there was no reason to not tape one this summer. So I thought that was a little weird. Maybe that comes back next year. Then there's a better chance of the Mae Young Classic returning than Evolution. Because the tournament can be brought back at any point. I guess the Evolution pay-per-view could be too, but I feel like the only reason why they did that was to make it up to the women and the fans for excluding the females from the Saudi Arabia shows and the fact that they had Ronda Rousey and Nikki Bella that could sell a show on them. Great for WWE. And great for Ronda, great for Nikki, that's awesome. But I still think they could sell an entire all-women's pay-per-view with the women they have. So many fucking women between all the brands, NXT UK, NXT, Raw, and SmackDown, with who they have on the roster. Even with the people out hurt, they could still build an entire all-women's pay-per-view around the women they have. They just choose not to. His other 2 questions. Will there be any shocking surprises on the first AEW episode and the Fox debut episode of SmackDown this week? There has to be. I heard a rumor about a potential appearance from a former WWE superstar in AEW tonight. I won't spoil anything. I didn't click on the spoiler warning, but fucking Cultaholic, dude. I'm on YouTube, and I'm not subscribed to them or anything, but they show up in my recommended videos for whatever reason. And on their video, it's a spoiler. Former WWE star, teased for AEW debut on Wednesday. Ooh. And the silhouette, it's so obvious who it is. It's so fucking obvious. I'm like, dudes, just put a question mark like everyone else. Like, don't fucking spoil it. Like, that's so annoying. I hate when they do that. I hate when companies do that, or videos, or, YouTube people, article people, whatever. Anyone who writes an article or makes a video and they put the fucking silhouette of the person, they make it obvious who it is. If it's not a big deal, it's not a huge name. So I wasn't disappointed when I saw who it was. But still, it's a notable enough name I would have liked to have been surprised when I saw it on Wednesday, or tonight rather. I think it will happen now that I think about it, knowing who it is, and considering their ties to AEW. I think there's a pretty good chance they do show up. But anyway, I think they'll show up the person that's been rumored, maybe even more people that have been under wraps. Like Jon Moxley, they did a great job of not spoiling that ahead of time. There was a lot of speculation he would be at that show, that AEW show, but it was nothing set in stone that Dean Ambrose would be at Double or Nothing. We didn't know until he showed up, so they did a great job of keeping that secret. I hope they could do that too for the AEW Dynamite debut. They need at least one big debut from a familiar face, or maybe someone that we don't already know. I think they need that for tonight's show. For SmackDown, I wrote a whole article about this on Monday, but for those who didn't read it, I wrote The Rock, but obviously they announced them for the show like hours after the article was published. So The Rock will be there, not a surprise. I hope they can also get, let's see, I'm hoping they can also put on the show, according to the article I put up there on Bleacher Report, I included Finn Balor. I could absolutely see him coming back on Friday or anytime in the near future because he's been out since August, since SummerSlam, and he got married, and he's been out for about a month now since he got married, so it makes sense for him to return anytime now. So Finn Balor, Jeff Hardy, maybe. I don't know how quickly he'll be cleared to return, but maybe Jeff Hardy. I didn't put him in the article. I put in Drew McIntyre. I could absolutely see that happening. I put in another inactive superstar. John Cena I put in there. I could absolutely see him showing up. It's not that big. I mean, it's a big name, but, you kind of figure he might be there after showing up at Raw Reunion. But John Cena, I put on there John Morrison, obviously. How can you not? He's been rumored now for a while. So, yeah, I think both shows will have some notable appearances of familiar faces and some new ones, which they need to really draw attention, build excitement, and send the message that anything can happen. I'm not saying the entire episode of Dynamite and SmackDown should be all about returns and all this other shit. It's the law of diminishing returns after a while, where it doesn't really mean as much if that's all you're getting is returns. Save that shit for the Rumble. But I do think we will get at least one or two big names on each for both shows this week. And he also asked, will there be some announcements on SmackDown this Friday? I'm not sure what announcements you're referring to. Like 205 Live's future? Like, maybe. But I feel like anything that would have been announced already. So I don't think so, but we'll see. I'm not sure what announcements there would be, to be honest with you. At RJ_Marceau, Mr. Marceau's question was, or first of two questions, actually. First question was, do you think AEW should have kept the identity of Chris Jericho's tag team partner a secret? So yeah, they did announce officially, this is not a spoiler, AEW did announce on Tuesday night during their Countdown to AEW Dynamite special on TNT that Jericho will indeed be teaming with, drumroll please, Ortiz and Santana. That's like their fucking love child. The former LAX from Impact will be teaming with Chris Jericho. The world's worst kept secret. I think we all figured it would be them. It was rumored it would be them even before they debuted in AEW. But they debuted it all out, and everyone's like, okay, it only makes sense. They're facing the Young Bucks, who they attacked at the pay-per-view. So, no, I think it's fine they announced it. Build more excitement that they'll be on the show. We know they're in AEW. We already know they're signed. We figured they would be on the show in some form or fashion anyway. And it makes sense, considering they're teaming, or, they're feuding with the Young Bucks anyway to a certain extent. So, I don't really have an issue with it. It's not like it's going to be a new team or anything like that. I don't know what team it would be anyway. But, no, yeah, I have no issue with it. I expected it to be Ortiz and Santana. You could say, they need surprises. They'll have plenty of surprises on the show. Don't worry. They'll have plenty of surprises on this pay-per-view no matter what. Not pay-per-view, but this big event on TNT. So it's not really that big of a deal. Build more excitement. Another thing to advertise for the show. And people, honestly, if they came out, you would have been like, most people would be like, that's kind of disappointing because we already kind of figured it would be them. At least we know, At least it won't be underwhelming or disappointing because we already kind of assumed it would be them. If they didn't debut it all out, I would say, yeah, absolutely keep it a surprise. But they already debuted. We know they're in the company. There's no reason really to keep it a surprise at this point if we already know it's them. And his second question, thoughts on Brock Lesnar killing the Mysterio family? As a big fan of both guys, I love the angle and it made Brock come off like a total beast/asshole. Yeah, I thought it was an amazing angle, like I said earlier. Kicked off Raw on a high note, made Brock look like an asshole, like you said. The most ruthless Brock has looked in forever. I know he beat the shit out of Rollins a couple months ago, I remember, but again, Rollins really wasn't all that sympathetic of a character, the same way that Rey Mysterio is and Dominic is, being Rey Mysterio's son. So it was a different dynamic, and it worked wonderfully. The crowd booed Brock. They didn't sit on their hands. They didn't even cheer it. They booed. Genuinely booed Brock for beating the shit out of Dominic and his father, Ray. I thought it was an amazing angle. Again, even better if they set up something with him and Cain, or not Cain the wrestler, but Cain Velasquez, whatever his fucking name is. You know what I'm talking about. or Brock and Ray for a future show, like a future, Crown Jewel show or episode of SmackDown or the next pay-per-view, whatever. Just as good. But, yeah, thought it was a great angle. Thought it was awesome. Shame that Raw could not maintain that momentum from that point forward. But it was an awesome angle nonetheless. And then final question comes from @E13A. His question was, I'm asexual, which if you don't know what that means, it means I'm apathetic towards sex. So I'm probably not just the target. I'm not the target audience here, he says. But he says, what is the appeal of Mike and Maria in the Rusev and Lana storylines? Honestly, whether you're asexual or whatever you may be, this storyline sucks. No matter how you cut it, you could be a fucking alien for all we care. It sucks. It sucks. So it's not just you, dude. I don't see the appeal in it either. I'm sure we're not the only ones. Everyone agrees. This storyline sucks. There is no appeal to it. Maybe to people that have been cucked before. I mean, maybe that's the target audience with this thing. I'm not exactly sure what they're going for. I don't find it entertaining. I don't think many people find it entertaining based off what I saw on social media this past week. I just really don't get it. So hopefully they just scrap the whole thing soon enough. I feel like the only real target audience for some shit like this is Paul Heyman himself or Vince. Maybe Paul is writing the shit to impress Vince. I don't know. Maybe it's Vince's call and it's not Paul's fault. Who gives a shit? All I know is that this storyline is fucking atrocious. And they have to move on from it. It's not entertaining for anybody. It's just bad TV. So hopefully they get rid of this shit coming out of the draft. They can split up Bobby and Rusev. They're on separate shows. We don't have to worry about this nonsense anymore. It's just fucking terrible. So that's all I'm going to say on that, even though I said a lot about it earlier too, because it's just so bad I don't want to think about it. I want to be excited right now, guys. I want to be excited for AEW Dynamite tonight and SmackDown on Friday and Hell in a Cell on Sunday. I don't want to have to think about that awful ending to Raw for Monday. So let's erase that from our minds altogether, or at least attempt to. Nevertheless, guys, thank you as always for tuning in to episode 305 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. You guys are the greatest. Continue sending in your questions by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Leave a question on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So with all that being said, guys, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy AEW Dynamite tonight, NXT tonight as well. Regardless of what you're watching, just enjoy it. It's a great time right now to be a wrestling fan. Let's not waste time bickering. Oh, NXT's better. Oh, AEW's better. This show is shit. This is shit. In that case, just keep your opinions to yourself. Support whatever wrestling you want. Support wrestling in general. It doesn't matter if it's AEW, NXT, fucking Ring of Honor, Impact, MLW, Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, New Japan. It doesn't matter. As long as you support wrestling, that's all I care about. So enjoy the shows tonight, folks. It's going to be a very fun time to say the least. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.